Thank you. Is this working? Hello. We're ready to start the planning board meeting, and before we get to the first item on the agenda, is there public comment on any issue that's not on our agenda tonight? From anyone? Okay. In that case, we'll go ahead with the first item on the agenda, which is 518, 510 and 540 South Avenue. I'd like to start actually by setting the table a little bit, just describing what it is that we're doing tonight and what the program is that we're involved with. This is a 40B application. The applicant has filed for an eligibility letter from Mass Housing, and they have presented their project to the selectmen. The selectmen, as part of this process, are required to submit comments to Mass Housing prior to the issuance of the eligibility letter. The planning board's role in this is merely advisory. We don't make decisions on anything. We merely advise the selectmen at least at this stage of the process at their request. And they have requested that we review the project in a preliminary way and give them our comments, which will be included in the packet of comments that the selectmen return to Mass Housing. So I just wanted people to know what we're doing tonight. We're just looking at this in a preliminary way. It's the first step in a process that will go on considerably longer. If you don't have a chance to make your comment tonight, don't worry, it won't be, believe me, the only time that you'll have a chance to make a comment, and there'll be plenty of opportunity for people to weigh in. What I would like to do is to try to hold this, this meeting to no more than an hour. I would like to start with a 15-minute presentation from you, the applicant. Then I'd like to open up the floor to people with their questions and comments. And then end the meeting with about 15 minutes of questions and comments from the planning board itself. If when you speak, could you please just identify yourself and your residence, your address. If you're from out of town and you represent an individual or a group of individuals, please let us know that you're not a resident, but that you represent those people and individuals. Having said that, I think we can go ahead and start the meeting.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Jonathan Buckman. I'm the owner of 518, 510, and 540 South Avenue. I'm a resident of Weston for 22 years. I have done 13 projects in Weston, 7 of them through the planning board. And I'm just going to take you through a slide presentation and introduce you to my team and development. We have David Hall with the Hanover Company. He's a partner of the Boston office. We have Talia Canastra of Q3, who are the architects on the project. And then we have Thad Palmer, a Weston resident as well of 21 years, Palmer Real Estate Advisors. We have our landscape architects, GWH Architects, that will be representing us. Our legal representation is Madam McClellan Fish, it will be Jim Ward. For our traffic study, we have Vanasky and Associates, who has done a large number of projects already in town. And then for our fiscal impact consultant, we're using Fugere Planning and Development. Above, on this slide, you can see the project timeline when we first started with the properties. The first meeting we had with the town was on November 14th of 2018, and we had the planning board tonight, which is our 20th meeting with different boards in town, and we have one more to go before we go forward to the zoning board, hopefully. Just to give you a little bit of background, the 3 parcels that I have assembled is made up of 3 of them, which is 510 South Avenue, which is roughly this parcel, which is about 5 acres. There's 518 South Avenue, which is the other half of this, which is around 4 acres. And then you've roughly got 540 South Avenue, which is 0.94, which gives you a total acreage of 9.54 acres. And we have about 2.8 acres in this location here that is all wet, that we will not be doing anything in except for the 25-foot no-touch with existing driveways. I'm going to hand you over to David Hall to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Mr. Chairman, for the record, David Hall from the Hanover Company. Before I get to my part, Jonathan failed to mention a quick plans on doing is holding this property for the very long term. It's a generational investment for his family, which is a little unusual for us as a developer. We would usually be under contract, to purchase it from the current owner. So the Hanover Company, and I'll give you more introduction in a moment, is a fee developer. We're the hired help here, and we answer the Jonathan's instructions on what he wants to do. It is very important that a Weston resident that's been here for 22 years plans on staying with this for the very long term. I want to give you a brief introduction to the Hanover Company. We're headquartered in Houston, Texas. My associate and I, Steve Gazzo, run the Boston office, which is our largest operation nationwide. The company has a strategic focus on just luxury rental properties. We don't do hotels or office buildings or anything else. We focus on one thing and try to do it very, very well. We've developed over 55,000 homes across the country. There's another 10,000 in development right now, so it's a significant company. We have, this project would be our 25th in eastern Massachusetts. It would take us over 7,000 apartment homes in this region. These are some photos of the interiors, some of the amenities. This is our project over in Needham. I have so many pictures I can show you to bore you, but the point is there doesn't have to be a lot of mystery about what we're doing here. There's projects in the immediate area that you can go visit if you'd like. And we have a great website, hanoverco.com. So I don't know if through email or someone I can get a list of places to go, we can do a tour or whatever people would like to do. But there is real examples that you can go walk through. I wanted to give some discussion over site context. This has gotten a little bit controversial in some of the meetings we've discussed, as we have been trying to make the point that albeit there are neighborhood homes here, and we want to be very sensitive to those, the property also is surrounded by some fairly substantial non-residential or institutional uses. So you've got Beechwood Stables across the street, which is a horse farm. You've got the seminary, which wraps around this is our project right here, the property. You've got the seminary, which wraps around it. So in blue is what we're calling institutional or non-residential uses. The tennis center, St. Demetrios, Weston Schools. But of course, you've got all the residents on Wellesley Street, the residents across Route 30, and the immediate neighbors right here and right here to the project. So our design is principally one, our presentation is principally one of design tonight. We're going to try to talk also about the perspectives, the massing, what you might see from your homes if you're nearby, what you might see from the street as you drive by, but more importantly, where you can't see the project. So here it is. This is the Jonathan's 9.5-acre site. The existing entry, you're probably familiar with it at 518 is here. That's a single lane, and there's wetlands on this side, so those remain untouched. And that's going to be difficult to widen too much, so we're making that a secondary means, really probably just service and emergency. The main entry will be through 540, the home site that Jonathan is purchasing tomorrow, into the site, and the main massing of the project is in the back. Importantly, I'll discuss the project a little bit, but Weston is not on sewer, so we have to have a wastewater treatment facility. Quite creatively, we think we'll put that building up front. Now we know that can be alarming, but we think we can do a beautiful design. We'd like to borrow from the lovely design of the Beechwood Stables across the street and mimic the look and feel of that building, and have what you drive by be super attractive, and we mean that. The wastewater facility needs a leaching field, and that would go here. Let me add, there's no smell, no noise. It's a very clean facility. The effluent that comes out of that facility is all governed by DEP, and it is 98% pure water. The project is what we call a wrap design. I won't take too much. I'm going to tell you talk much more about the project. But this is the residential facility wrapping around the luxury courtyard. It has an amenity space here. The beauty of it is the units wrap around, all the parking is inside. So if you live there, you drive in, you drive up to your floor, go home, and you're covered parking from the elements. It does fill up the site here, a lot of tree removal. It is a very large project. 275 units are proposed here. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We know it's big. We're not suggesting that it's anything like it in Weston. I'll talk about why we're doing it in a moment. There'll be other amenities like a dog run and fitness center, business center, management, leasing office, and amenity areas. So before I hand over to Talia for design, I wanted to talk about, we know what the big issues are. I'm not saying I've got them all listed here. I want to explain ourselves on this 275 versus 200. So 275 is the number of units that your town, the town of Weston, needs to get to the 40B 10% threshold. And then you don't have to do any more of these projects. So Jonathan, as the owner, challenged our design team to see whether 275 units would fit, function, circulate, operate properly on the site. I see people shaking their heads. I understand many think not. But actually, we think it could work. And it could be just a ticket the town wishes in one project, and I know there are others, to get over this 10% and be done with 40B once and for all. The law states that we can only go to 200. So we're not forcing anything on this community. We're not suggesting you have to do anything the town does not want. The 200 units is the threshold for the 40B because of the size of the town. 275 is a maybe, it's a test fit. We want the town to consider it in relation to the other issues before the town. Obviously, we understand that school-age children is a huge issue. We don't have any slides or professionals here tonight on that. I have some data if people want to ask questions, some expected numbers for you later. Same thing on traffic. Traffic is horrible everywhere, everywhere. We'll make it a little worse, but not as bad as you think.
No, wait a minute. Please don't interrupt him. Please, let him finish his presentation.
I live in Boston. I live in Milton. I'm not trying to say it won't worsen the traffic, but there'll be a full study when we get to the zoning board of appeals, and I can give you some figures tonight. Sorry for the unfortunate humor. And it's going to be a very green project. Jonathan proposes to do something that I've never seen done before, and that's have the whole project be solar powered. So we're going to experiment with that, see if it works, and I have a whole slide on green initiatives later. So I'm going to pass it over to Talia now to go into our design.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Talia Knisher with Q3 Architects. So I'm just going to take you through the building. This is just a zoomed-in plan of what David was just speaking to. So when you enter the site, you come in through that entry drive here, and you're fronted with that amenity space, the clubhouse space that's in the building. And if you continue driving around, you can get to, we have a proposed service area off to the side where it connects to that exit drive here. And if you were to go the other direction, you actually loop around the building and enter your garage from the side where the seminary is located. There's a fire department access road that circles the entire site, and it gets you out from either exit. Pedestrian access to this, we have within the landscape design, there's sidewalk systems that are connecting all of the exterior spaces throughout the property. And then, as David mentioned, when you come in through your main entry drive, you connect through your amenity space to a landscaped courtyard within the donut of the building. The units circle around the entire parking garage, and as you can see, there's a ton of landscape buffer that is around the entire property. So although there is a corner of the garage that's exposed, there's over 400 feet of buffer throughout, and we'll have some graphics following through to further illustrate that. In the next few slides, we're going to show you some 3D maps of the project. As you can see, there's the landscape buffer all around, but we've actually removed that for these next few slides so that you can see the massing of the building, the way that it interacts with the topography. So there's a significant slope on this site. There's a high point at this end, and then it slopes diagonally down to the corner of the garage. And we just want to show you how that steps through so that you understand the challenges that this site presents. From an aerial view, this is the front area where that amenity space is, and these dotted orange lines are our property lines. So our entry drive comes up through here, and then there's landscape buffer, basically to the outside of all of these orange lines. There's 5 stories on the majority of the building, and then when you come around, we're actually stepping the residential units down so that we continue to show 5 stories. And then when you come around to the back, it actually is 4 stories up at the top of the hill. So from here, you can see that corner where there's 5 stories here. This is where your secondary, that service drive is located, and your main entry through here. And then you can see the height difference here where we're stepping down our units so that we're only ever showing 5 stories. So the color differences here, we wanted to illustrate not only the way that the building breaks down and steps with topography, but also our approach on how we're going to break down this massing architecturally and visually so that you only ever see certain portions and proportions of the different legs of the building. So through here is that 4 stories that I mentioned when you wrap the corner from that entry drive. On the right side of the orange line, this is the seminary's property with all that landscape buffer. You have your access drive coming through here, and then as the grade starts dropping down again, you come back to 5 stories. But we're going to break down, and we'll show you some renderings of what the building will look like, but we're going to break down the architecture at these points to really make sure that we're not giving you this huge expanse of one look and feel. When you wrap around the building here, you'd be coming through from my previous view around this corner and back through here. Off to this side, it was that expansive landscape buffer all the way continue through Wellesley Street. You wrap around and you see this exposed garage here, but in reality, that's not visible at all from any point. And this is the lowest point of the site as well, so you still are only seeing your 5 stories at any residential unit location. So to further illustrate that, we just wanted to show you some distances from adjacent properties.
While I understand the urgent need for the town of Weston to address its 40B housing issue, I believe that we as a town have a responsibility to do this in a manner which respects the environment and at least attempts to maintain the rural and neighborhood feel of Weston that we as residents of this town all love so much. This project does absolutely none of those things. It is massive and completely out of proportion to the surrounding residential neighborhood. And yes, Mr. Buckman, it is a residential neighborhood and not an institutional neighborhood as you have portrayed in your presentations. This project will create numerous environmental issues for the adjoining wetlands and the underlying aquifer that runs through that area. And we've not even begun to understand how the waste from 600 to 800 people and 465 or more cars on just 6.7 acres will be disposed of. Neighbors in this area are already thinking about how to sell their property before this development is approved. For these reasons, I urge the town to act slowly and deliberately on this unusually dense 40B proposal to avoid changing the nature of this town permanently for the worse. Thank you for listening.
Let's try to
Would you let everybody else speak, please? Then you can go. Yes. Please.
I'm going to answer the brothers. I never said that I ever met you. We had no caretaker.
I think it's better if you just talk to us as opposed to talking to the audience. That would be
I just want to
great.
set the record straight. I never said that I ever met Lisa Revers. Lisa Revers sent her caretaker of the property to a neighborhood meeting that she attended because she was away. We met with the caretaker, and the only call I ever got from Lisa Revers was 2 days ago when she called me to berate me for 20 minutes and wouldn't even accept the meeting to go over there. Thank you. Excuse me?
Yes, sir, you had a question or a comment.
Hi there. My name is John Gifford. I live at 68 Knobscott, and my family and I oppose this project for 3 reasons. First, Route 30 is a scenic road. There's nothing scenic about a 5-story apartment complex, roadside wastewater treatment center, and parking garage. The second issue we have is the economics. They changed them a little bit from the Board of Selectmen presentation that's online that they gave 2 weeks ago, where they had showed 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom, a total of 111 units. And I took issue with some of the facts they had. They're basically saying there's going to be 23 kids, school-age children, attending our schools out of 111 rental apartments, 2- and 3-bedroom, in a top 5 school district in the state. If you look at the Mass Department of Education website, they show that Weston spends over $24,000 per student. And supposedly this project will put $350,000 in Weston's coffers. Right there, that's a deficit of $200,000 a year if you believe the 23-kid number that they use. Taking it a little further, that doesn't cover police, that doesn't cover the fire department, that doesn't cover DPW. My final point is traffic. They're proposing 405 parking spots. They're saying that there are going to be 38, that will add 38 cars in the morning commute and 45 coming home. I can tell you, I commute to Boston today, coming home from Boston on the Pike, it took me 25 minutes. Traffic on exit 15 was backed up to the ramp. If you add another 45 cars to that, which I think is exceptionally low, you should probably double that, you're creating a serious hazard here. Not to mention what it does for emergency response times for the police and fire trucks trying to get through this, and our delayed school buses in the morning. So, in closing, we're completely against this. We urge scrutiny of these numbers, which I think anyone gives it a cursory glance will feel it belongs in the roadside wastewater treatment center. Thank you.
I think probably the applicant wants to respond to the school children impacts in the traffic. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, very quickly.
Yeah.
Sir, your statistics were a little off. Before the Board of Selectmen, we pointed to the marginal difference between 200 and 275 and talked about 23. So I told you I'd share some quick figures, and the same thing for traffic. So you were pulling through that. It's just at the margin. If it wasn't clear, I do apologize. But
Don't talk to the people in the
Yes,
audience.
Mr. Chairman. So the correct numbers that we project, we don't have the full study yet, but the traffic would generate about 100 cars in the AM peak and 120 cars in the PM peak going opposite directions. Yeah. And the school children, anywhere from 90 to 110 for the 275 unit proposal. Not
All right, thank you. Let's see, in the back, please.
one half of the road. Disappointed to be up here. This is being built and owned by a town resident. Jonathan, you and I have attended Cherokee together for almost 20 years. This is not a mitzvah, it's not a tikalo. This is an exploitation of this town and your neighbors. It has one thing and one thing only, and that is money in your pocket. That, I'm disappointed in you, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself for your greed. So I want to say that right up front. Now I'd like to get into this.
Don't talk to them again. If you talk to us, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So, to begin with, I would like to say that this is not a building, this is a high-rise in a residential community. This particular, I'd like to propose to the Planning Board and to the Board of Selectmen that because this is a large project and all they've done is eliminated a couple little things to show it's 200 units, that they deny this large project and let them go back to the Planning Board with a project based on feedback from the audience tonight and the other night. I'd like to see a significantly smaller project, one along the lines of Love Lane townhouses, maybe 10 or 15, 20 of those put up here. The issues I'd like to address on the existing proposal include a traffic study. We don't have a traffic study, you're quoting numbers, okay? I'd love to see a traffic study not done during school breaks and not done when 200 seniors in 2 weeks leave for their internships, because that's 200 less cars on the road. And the high school's within a quarter of a mile of this property. The project I see has almost 500 cars on the road, because it's almost 500 cars in this project. And if you average about 4 trips a day, that's 2,000 trips in and out of this property each day. Nothing close to the 100 trips that you mentioned. Okay? The cars are only 1/8 of a mile from the high school. Jonathan, I would expect you to be a little sensitive to this, seeing as your son got hit by a car on Wilson Street. Okay?
I understand.
It's appropriate.
I understand.
His son got hit by a car, and yet, but his sons are graduating, so it's not an issue. Okay, so that won't be an issue. Okay? The next issue is the wetlands buffer. And I'd like to share this picture with you because it's not available here. But I disagree that they're not encroaching on wetlands. The pink here is the buffer zone. The yellow, where the road goes right through, and I know it exists, but this will have extensively more traffic than 1 car or 2 cars a day, and those are do not disturb zone. Not only does it disturb and go over wetlands, the parking lot goes over the buffer of the wetlands, and it also is only within about 50 feet of an aquifer protection district. Okay? If anybody wants to see that, it's kind of hard to see because I only have a small picture here. The next thing is an abutters impact. You say that the abutters are the people right next door. This is a 5-story building. Trees are not going to hide this. We don't have 5-story trees. I have a 2.5-story house because it's split with an addition on top. The trees barely touch my roof. So 5 stories, trees are not going to buffer this. This is going to be visible from everyone on Brown Street, all the way over to Winter Street, and all over to the high school and all the houses along South Avenue. So that is probably about in excess of 50 homes that are going to be affected. Next, I'd like to talk about the wastewater plant treatment. This is only 14 feet from the lot line. There is a residential home right there. 14 feet away from this wastewater treatment. There is plenty of room in the back where you have all the amenities and all the green space. Put your wastewater treatment there. You might have to lie a few pipes. The other thing I'd like to point out is the driveway is within 2 feet of the lot line all the way around. Okay? I would love at the next opportunity to float balloons to show everyone exactly how tall this building is, and you will easily see that this is a high-rise set in a residential community. Lastly, I would like to make, if any project, which I'm hoping no project goes in here unless it's something on a significantly smaller scale, that it goes into perpetuity. And it's not just relying on a 40B clause, which has too many loopholes where they claim this will remain rentals. So I'd like it to be put in, if you think and you're telling everyone it is going to be remain rentals, then you usually have no problem putting in the clause that it is in perpetuity. Lastly, I would suggest that, again, to the board and to the Board of Selectmen, that we deny this project based on 475 and get some accurate numbers in here, both in the way of traffic studies, both in the way of floating balloons and getting height restrictions, also getting an abutters list, which we don't have an abutters list, but it affects all of these properties around. Thank you.
Thank you.
At 3 Briar Lane. I've been looking at this and trying to figure out what the Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, and others will have as their legacy to the town if they approve a project that will put on these 9 or 4 acre, 4 buildable acres, whatever, an infinitesimal percentage of the town. You're going to be adding 7% to the housing units of the town on these 9 acres. And that's a density that is so out of keeping with the idea of 40B incorporating low-income housing throughout a town. This is just a dump on 9 particular acres. I think it's terrible, terrible land use. It's going to create, and the legacy of the board, and the planning board, and the selectmen, I think, will be that people on Highland Avenue, because of the traffic backup on Route 30 and on Wellesley Street, maybe other streets, people aren't going to be able to get out of their driveways because there's going to be so much backup of people trying to get to Route 30 and having Route 30 be a parking lot on the way to the parking lot that already is the Mass Pike. It's a terribly dense project. And the only way that that traffic problem gets alleviated is the other fear that I have, and that this ends up being a Regis College dorm. And I think that the great possibility is that instead of what the developer thinks, what he's really doing is going to have cram 3 or 4 students into apartments, and they're going to be walking from this facility across Route 30 through the town woods to Regis College. And I think one of the things that, if this does proceed, this needs to be clear that this can only be a single-family housing units, and that of course will exacerbate the traffic. But I think this is going to end up being frat row.
Quickly, Mr. Chairman, there are ways legally under fair housing law that we can limit the project from being leased to undergraduate students, and Jonathan proposes to do that.
All right, thank you. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is David Gould. I live at 680 South Ave, which is just west of there, and I have to drive by this area, like to get to Boston or Waltham, Newton, Cambridge, Brookline, any place east of Weston. And if it's going to take me even 5 or 10 extra minutes every day to get to Boston or wherever, that's going to have like a significantly negative impact on my life, making me late for appointments or meetings, or I'll have to start out earlier. So I really hope that this project won't be built. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Hello everyone, I just found out about this meeting a few hours ago. 10 Bittersweet Lane, my name is William Widugaris III. I'm also representing my parents, Bill and Irene, as well as Bittersweet Lane. I can tell you ever since the Mass Pike got rid of the toll booths, there's been almost a double amount of traffic on Route 30. It seems like people are bypassing the highway and they're going directly down Route 30. Bittersweet Lane cannot go left or right for about 5 minutes. Now the idea is that if someone's lost, they have to come in and they do a U-turn in my street. They actually pull into Bittersweet and they take a left into 10 Bittersweet Lane. That's my house. So all hours of the night, people are pulling into my driveway and doing 3-point turns because they're trying to find out where they're going. And so now we're proposed. How many more in our neighborhood, sir? How many more in our neighborhood? I don't think we have any more room to fit all these people. How are you trying to do this to us? I can't imagine you're thinking this is the right thing to do. This makes me nauseous. It's starting to make sense why all the houses aren't being for sale. Like they're all for sale and no one's buying. It makes sense. What's happening? Anyways, 10 Bittersweet Lane. My name is William Widugeris III. I represent anyone in Bittersweet Lane who wants to talk. This is getting, I'm like nervous. And it sounds like it's coming in so slippery too, like as if no one knows about it. We need to keep our eyes on this thing. And I agree, if we can minimize the idea of maybe 15 houses, let's use the land wisely. Why would we make a little city? I went to UMass Amherst. All right, there's Southwest and then there's Central. When you're in Central, that's considered the countryside. That's kind of like Weston. Then in Southwest is this jungle atmosphere where everything is piled up on each other. And it just looks like that. You're making Southwest of UMass Amherst right there. I'm completely nerve-wracked right now. I hope we make a whole different plan together, and I look forward to all these meetings. Let's do it.
Diana Chaplin, Love Lane. I was just wondering if the planning board could tell us what your position is on all of this and how you're planning to help the town deal with this, mitigating the impact of this proposal.
To respond to that question, this is part of a 40B application process. To reiterate, our role in this process is to advise the selectmen. They've asked us to advise them, which is what we'll do in this initial phase, which is the project eligibility phase, which would be generated, the decision of which would be generated by mass housing. We're not the decision makers in this. The decision makers are the selectmen and the zoning board of appeals. The zoning board of appeals would be the ones granting the permit. Again, our role would be advisory as the planning board, but we're not decision makers, and the zoning board of appeals can ask for our advice or not by state statute. So we're not the guys in the driver's seat. I think everybody should realize that. We will try to influence things to the best of our ability, but we're not going to be making final decisions. So does that answer your question?
Yes, I think that's helpful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Peter Hill, 687 Wellesley Street. I would just say that this project I feel is really very out of character for the town. And certainly I feel, I was on the traffic committee before, the intersection is already at the 30R level F, that already failed. Having 200 cars or more going onto Route 30 in the morning, in the afternoon, and also turning. I don't know if the plan is to put up a light on this, which would make it even more dense, and I would be totally checked for that. I would recommend that this project be majorly scaled down. I recommend to ZBA that they, I think there are other options for the town, so I'd recommend against it.
Thank you. Anything else? I think the gentleman is going to speak first, and if you don't mind, I'll call on you next if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Jeff Conover. I live at 7 Country Drive. My position on this is I'm opposed for all the very solid reasons given here by the residents who I came to hear tonight. I think they've laid out a good case. did hear something, I just wondered if people in planning could help me with this. Is the town planning to be co-applicant on this project?
Is this going to be a local initiative petition or not? No. The answer is no. The selectmen are not going to be a co-applicant. Yes.
Catherine Smith at 69 Knobscott. I just wanted to reiterate two comments made earlier. One is traffic and safety, not just traffic and nuisance, but traffic and safety. To the extent there's huge congestion already, and this aggravates it, with the schools there, I'd be very concerned. We want to always make sure there's clear access to the schools. And the second comment was one of the gentlemen said he might have to leave the house earlier. For many of us, especially working parents, you can't always leave the house earlier. So you can't necessarily leave your house at 6 in the morning to make your commute 45 minutes or 50 minutes as opposed to an hour and a half. And if you have school-aged children, that really sort of makes the community prohibitive to young families who might want to move out. So I just wanted to reiterate those comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Two more comments, and then I'll open it up to the board for their questions and comments. Yes, sir.
Todd Rassiger, 127 Country Drive. So to articulate, our family is opposed to this project. We live a few blocks away from it. We have 3 young children. What the last speaker raised about safety is incredibly important to us. Our children frequently walk to school. As you look at the traffic for this, it's not just about Route 30. Cars are already averting Route 30, going down Winter Street, going down Brown Street, going down Wellesley Street, going down Glen Road towards accessing the Pike. Brown Street, we know, is a street that just put in a beautiful new sidewalk that actually allows our kids to be able to walk safely. More cars going down that street, it creates greater danger for their safety. So that's number one. Number two is when we think about this project and what's equitable and what's good public policy for this town, to put one site of 275 units to solve a problem for this entire town in one neighborhood that's affecting a group of residents adversely is disparate treatment. It's not equitable. It's not who we are as a town. We can do better than this. We can do better than this in terms of solving the problem from a public policy standpoint. And it's difficult. I get it. It's not easy. It's important, though, when we think about owning this as a town, the importance of welcoming new residents and being a welcoming place and hitting that 10% mark. It should be something as a town that we own. And if you all are advising this project towards 275 units, where the Board of Selectmen is doing that, you're not doing your job. This is a town. This is a unified town. And it's important that we all share in solving this. And if it's tough, sorry. You took this position. We're asking you to make those tough decisions and make it and think about everybody as a whole. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to comment? Yes, ma'am. I'll open it up now to comments from the other planning board members, but before I do, though, I'd like to recommend that everyone read the material on the town website about the 40B program and what the town's latitude is with respect to 40Bs, what the town's latitude is with respect to negotiating over 40Bs and limiting them. I think it would be to everyone's benefit to learn that law as closely as you possibly can, because that's what's driving this bus.
Hi, I'm Susan Zacharias. I am a member of the planning board, and I have to say this is the first time I didn't watch the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and I'm speechless, basically, at the size of this and the impact, and all I can think of is it's an absolutely urban landscape that is completely inappropriate as far as I'm concerned for our town, and it has a lot of work to be done. There were many, many things that could be worked on in this. I mean, not only just the size and the height, but when you look at the landscaping, there is no landscaping. Anyway, it needs a lot of work. And next.
Steve Oppenheimer. I had a question for you, gentlemen from the Hanover Companies. I believe you said that you were going to explain why 275 units worked versus 200 units, which is still clearly way too high. And the second question, and then you can answer them, is you said you were also going to explain why this project works in a town like Weston, even though there's nothing else like it in town, because I can't wait to hear your answer.
Okay. Yes, sir. I think I made myself clear that the reason we arrived at 275 was very simple. It's the number that the town needs to get to its limit. There's no forcing here. It can only be 200 by the law. But we thought that it's worth a try to see if it fits. And with this, I'm not saying it's within character, I'm saying it fits on the property. We've done many, many projects much larger than this on similarly sized sites. We've done
In Weston?
We've done it in Needham, in Westwood. Yeah. What's that?
Because they had to do an elevator building in order to comply with 40B.
We've done.
With a sewage treatment plant. Absolutely.
I will send it.
They are being built everywhere in order to try to comply with 40B. Wellesley is asking them to build 600 units in order to comply with 40B.
We don't live in Wellesley.
Once again, all the towns around you.
Sir, could you identify yourself?
Sure.
Pat Palmer, Weston resident for 21 years. Sudbury, Concord, Lexington, and Wellesley are all compliant with 40B. Most of the towns up and down 128 are now compliant with 40B. One thing that everyone's avoiding talking about, I know your traffic or your commute might be interrupted, but none of you are talking about the fact that it's shameful that we're at 3.77% affordable housing in Weston, which is well below many towns. Okay, and most of them, like Wellesley, are trying to get there. And so, what the state has mandated that we all, every town, share the burden of having some affordable housing. Okay, and so when you come up here and you say, I don't want my commute to be affected because you don't want 10% affordable housing. But let me just tell you, no matter where we put it in Weston, there's only 2 east-west roads you can put it in, right? So you have 117, you have 20, and you have 30.
I think I want to address that if you don't mind.
Sorry. Just hang on, because I've been very quiet, and I haven't interrupted anybody, so just let me...
Can you address us, please? Thank you.
So, there are very few places to put affordable housing in Weston. Hang on a second. Huh?
I think the board...
I would say, okay, but a lot of the issues being brought...
Project, please.
Correct. Fine. Fine. But
We actually do. We're pretty up to speed on 40.
So,
Can you explain
40B units somewhere in Weston. You look at the traffic patterns. There's 29,500 cars a day on Route 20. There's 16,500.
We're interested in this particular project.
Well, I'm talking about locating it on Route 30.
We don't want that last. What's your point? What's your interest in this project? What you have
Again, you asked the question, I told you they're
being built in other rural towns, semi-rural towns. If you
That was the only question.
It was good.
I think it's board has a couple more questions for you, May. I'm Leslie Glynn. 275, well, if you look at the queue, there are a number of other projects in the pipeline. And if I look at 104 Boston, that's 150 units. I look at 751 Boston Post Road, that's 180 units. If I add yours in at 275, that gets us to 605 units. We need 275 units in order to reach safe harbor. So we don't need 275, and we actually don't need 200. So I think the conversation from here on should be 200 and less. Otherwise, I think we're all I also agree with the earlier comments that this is an urban solution in a semi-rural town. I'm hoping that reducing the number of units can get it down to a usable scale. By putting the parking on the inside, I understand from an efficient building point of view, but it puts a very high urban wall, 8 towers at 20 feet for the drive around, and 10 feet for plantings, or 30 feet from the property line. That's a 5 to 6 story wall. That's a big wall. It's twice the height of anything allowed for zoning in Weston. In addition to that, the comments I heard about all this rural buffer that's there, well, it's on somebody else's property. It's not on your property.
Yes.
You know, so basically, the site is being dense packed. The only parts that aren't going to be built on are the wetlands where you cannot do it legally. If I was a constructor, a construction person, I'd say, I don't even know where your laydown area is. So I think there's a lot of discussion that has to be done, and this hopefully will be the start of it.
Thanks. I'm in line with the general sentiment of the board on the project so far. So I want to ask one general question. I'm going to ask a series of very granular questions in an attempt to help out with our response. I think you have some experience that maybe you can help and guide us a little bit. And the first general question is there interest from the applicant in cutting down the number of units beyond 200, down to 150, or even below that? Is there any interest at all?
No.
Okay, so the
200, yes.
To 199. Is that right? Or would it be 200?
There are tremendous fixed costs to build that garage.
Right.
And that was
I'm really trying to have a conversation with you. I'm going to follow on with
Easier just to say straight up no.
Great, great. So there's no interest in, I'll turn to Jonathan, and Jonathan, there's no interest from you in fundamentally restructuring and downsizing the project to townhomes, for example. There's no interest.
There is no interest in doing townhomes, and I'm not going to get into where it's going. I don't want to throw anybody on any buses, but
Sure.
we were told that townhomes would not be politically accepted on this property, and that they wanted for rent.
Understood.
Units. Okay, I'm not going to say who said it or what said it, but it came from somebody in the town.
But at this point, is there interest on your part in a smaller project?
We're going to be building 200 units.
Okay, understood. So I'm going to tap into some of your expertise. This is going to take about 10 minutes, sorry. On the 40B, there's someone who said they had experience with 11 40Bs, is that right?
Yeah, that's
You're the most experienced?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're right in the middle of this PEL process, is that right?
Yes.
And the PEL process precedes the comprehensive permit process, that's right? So I have this document here. Al has threatened to have me help him in responding to the request from the Board of Selectmen. So I'm doing a little bit of homework live here. So I'm looking at the Chapter B handbook for the Zoning Board of Appeals from 2017, and it talks about this process, and it says the chief elected official, which in this case would be the Board of Selectmen, should post the notice and PE application on the community's website and seek comments from municipal boards and departments. Making the documents available on the city or town website will ensure that the interested residents can have access to the information so they can comment if they wish. This comment period provides an opportunity for elected officials to lead a constructive conversation about the Chapter 40B and organize a coherent response to the community. Is that what we're doing? It's a comment period? Okay, fantastic. So about that comment period, then I'd like to ask the council on how we should respond. I have some thoughts about that. Or just what kind of comments are helpful to you in Mass Housing, subsidizing agency?
I think thoughts on life safety, design issues, massing, requests for additional perspectives, studies of that nature, and obviously we've already promised the traffic and school-age children and fiscal impact. All those issues will come before the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay.
But we welcome commentary. Jonathan and the team welcome commentary on all those items.
Fantastic. So you're not just looking for yes or no answers, you're asking for guidance to help the project out and minimize impact, is that right?
Sure.
Okay. So, and I have a list of what they suggest, which is somewhat the same as you. They say the type of feedback they want is that the site of the proposed project is generally appropriate for the residential development. That's one. Secondly, that the conceptual project design is generally appropriate for the site on which it's located, taking into consideration factors that may include proposed use, concept site design, and the building massing, topology, environmental resources, and integration into the existing development patterns. That's consistent with what you want to see? Okay, great. And then lastly, there's something economic. They say that an initial pro forma has been reviewed, including the land valuation determination consistent with our standards. And then it's consistent with the cost guidelines as well. That's information that's important to you as well?
It's already been submitted by us.
Okay, but the feedback on that, there's
yes, please,
an intent on our part to perhaps review some of that. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, what do you do with that? I'm curious. If we're going to provide the feedback to the Board of Selectmen, they're going to incorporate it into a larger response, and what happens? What do you do with that?
Take it into consideration.
Okay, so you take it into consideration. Is there, if we suggest some things, is there an opportunity to influence the design?
Yes.
If you come back with a comprehensive permit?
Yes.
Okay, so some of what we would comment, you perhaps would take into consideration and would adjust the design, no question about it. And that's important to do, very important for us to do. Okay. So now I want to understand the basis upon which we make our decision, or we make our recommendation. Is that okay? So the information that is supplied per the regulations according to this handbook include what was on the website, I assume. Some of the things include the proposed buildings and appropriate number of units by size, number of bedrooms, floor area, and type. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's all been done?
Yes. I stop you, it's been done on the 275.
Okay, got it.
So it would adjust downward if we all agreed it can only be 200.
Understood. Conceptual site plan, elevation drawing, and basic site information, calculations. Is that right?
Yes.
That's been done. Discussion of the approach to architectural massing and exterior building materials, and how the proposed buildings relate to adjacent properties. That information has been provided?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And just a few, sorry, and then I'll be done here in a second with the details. On the pro forma, are you pretty familiar with the pro forma?
I or my associate is, yes.
Okay, do you mind if I ask you a few questions about that? Because it's my only chance.
Sure.
And I've been told I've had previous experience, believe it or not, with Mass Housing, and I've been told by Mass Housing the time to provide feedback on the economics is early on, because late, it's just too late. Don't have time to deal with it. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions about it. So, if I ask you numbers, would you be prepared to answer? Would it be tough?
I'll tell you if I'm not.
Okay, great. So there's about 4 line items I'm going to ask you about. Okay, the building structural cost is $53 million. I just have my old pair of glasses on. I can't read all the numbers, but it's about $53 million. Is that right?
Take your word for it.
Okay. I was going to ask you how that relates to the cost per unit. Is that hard? Yeah, if it's hard to answer live, that's okay. I understand.
It is hard. It's a little
Okay,
unfair.
understood. Lawns and planting, I have to say, seems a little bit high. It's like $1 million. You're going to spend $1 million on lawns and planting?
Yes.
And how did you come up with that number?
Sorry.
Let me back up. Sorry to interrupt you. How did you come up with the building number? That's a question I have.
We take comparables from other projects that are similarly situated.
Is it scaled? Do you typically
Yes.
take the cost per unit and scale it to 275, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
And how did you come up with lawns and planting?
Same thing. We take the per square foot of grass, planting areas, beds. We know how to do it. We know generally what we do, and it's an equation.
Okay. And how did you come up with the developer fee?
The standard fee.
That's just a standard fee, so mass housing applies a standard fee to that?
Yes.
Okay. And the construction loan interest, how did you come up with that?
Standard market rate.
Okay, you just plug it into the equation?
Yes, sir.
That's it? Okay, fantastic. So I appreciate you provided a full package to us, that part of which we went over. And that full package is important to us. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so the full package is important for us to come up with comments to the Board of Selectmen to feed in a full package back to Mass Housing and you. Is that right?
Yes.
It's important to the process. Okay, so now we have a full package at 275, right? We have a full package. We're prepared to cogitate on it and answer to you on 275. So I'm a little puzzled about the 200 units.
Is there a question there, sir?
I don't have a full package on the 200 units.
Okay, so.
Are you planning on providing us with a package of the 200 units?
We can, but the thought is, since Mass Housing is evaluating.
Are you planning on providing us a package of the 200 units?
We can, yes.
Oh, okay. So when can we have that?
We're waiting to hear from Mass Housing on what we've already filed for 275. So we'd like.
So
to
we're in the
respond to
middle of a
that.
very important process. It's regulated, right? We talked about how important it is. We talked about how important our comments are. We talked about how important the input was. We're missing the input to provide comments on 200 units. When do we get that input?
After we hear from Mass Housing on the 275.
And then we start another Pell process?
No, it's going to only be less impactful, and we're happy to share a parallel pro forma with you. And we could do it now too. I don't think it would be that difficult. We're not refiling the Mass Housing. We'll start the clock over again.
I'm not asking you to refine by any means.
Okay.
I'm preparing with Al and the team to provide a response, our feedback on all the things we talked about, right? How we can make a better project, be it at 275 or 200. And I'm saying we're missing the input on 200 for us to be able to provide a legitimate response. Could you provide that input to us?
Yes, we could.
Okay, great. And then could we have another meeting? Why not have another meeting? I mean, it's important.
Yes.
I'm really trying to be cooperative here. I'm trying to add the best value that we possibly. There's not a lot of power in our hands. We get it, but there is some influence available to us, and I think these are all. It's a team of bright people. You have a lot of knowledge in the audience there too, and I think it would be important for them to be able to comment on 200 units.
We'll do another meeting.
Okay, we'll do another meeting at 200 units. That's fantastic. I appreciate that. So I think that's great. Thanks, guys.
Next witness.
All right. Thank you all for coming and for making your comments. We've made notes of all of them. If anyone has any other comments that occur to them after this meeting, you can email them to our town planner, Imai, and he will make sure to distribute them to all of us. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, everyone. We do have other applications tonight, other business people are waiting to get their applications heard. There are other comment periods, so please, if you could allow the board to move on to the rest of their business. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to start the public hearing on Regis College special permit for the Fidelity House Day Camp. Who's here to talk about that? Please come up and tell us about the day camp. Maybe we could keep this to about 15 minutes or so.
Can I do it in 1 minute?
You can do it. You can do it in 30 seconds.
All right. My name is Lisa Urban. I'm the youth program director at Fidelity House. We're a nonprofit youth center that's been around since 1955, and we're actually located in Arlington, Mass. And we've been doing day camps for 64 seasons, different places, actually more out this direction for years. When I first started about 34 years ago, it was at Regis College, Brandeis, and then they renovated it, and we had to move on. And we've been at Minuteman, Lexington for 26, 27 years. And they renovated and built a school without a pool. So we had to search for another location, and we were very lucky to get Regis. It's perfect. So we will be starting, hopefully, day camp this summer there. And it's a day camp. It goes from, for us, it goes from 8 to 6:30, but at Regis, we're only there 10 to 3. So, it's a very old-fashioned type day camp. We do arts and crafts, swimming lessons in the morning, free swim in the afternoon. A lot of these kids have never done anything but swimming in oceans. Archery, nature. It has a very old-fashioned feel to it. It's an awesome camp. And so we're lucky to get the location. Obviously, this is all kind of new to me, coming to a planning board. And I'm scared to say we will be driving a bus in, but we'll get there at 10. And we go into Regis and turn around there, drop off. The bus does not stay. We don't have parents coming and going. The kids come on the vehicle, and then at the end of the day at 3 o'clock, we leave. There will be like 2 or 3 other cars that are like staff, lifeguard cars, who's in charge of the pool, but it's all going to be right on Regis, and we'll just be coming right down Boston, or number 20, and then Wellesley School Street, and then going right in, leaving, sitting in the traffic at 95. But
and how many campers?
It'll depend on the week, between 45 and 65.
And they all fit on one bus?
It's a 77 passenger.
Okay.
So yeah.
Right.
And they're 2nd through 8th grade. I don't know if I mentioned that.
When does
It starts June 24th, and it goes through August 16th, whatever that Friday is. I think it's the 16th. It's a 8-week period, but they can sign up for the week. It's by week, Monday through Friday.
So it's 8 weeks, it's about 70 students a week for 8 weeks?
Most, probably 65 a week, and the closer you get to 4th of July, the more it's 45, 50. 2nd grade through 8th grade. So 7 through 13. They all arrive on the bus. It starts at Fidelity House. We're a nonprofit youth center, so that we start there. We're there an hour in the day in the beginning, here for basically the pool and all the nature stuff here. And then we go back to Fidelity House at 3, and then they're there for the rest of the day. So the parents drop them off and pick them up in Arlington.
How many staff?
It ranges, but probably county pool staff and everything else, 30 at most.
You have 30?
Right, right.
All right. And
Not all, I mean, it's
you all go ahead on the bus as well?
We do.
Okay, so there's really no extra impact except just one bus at 10 o'clock.
Right, the bus.
You just heard all the traffic.
I know, that's what I was like, I don't want to come up and bring the bus down the street.
Right.
But, and they'll clearly say Fidelity House on the side of the bus. So you'll know it's us.
And so I assume, do they eat the cafeteria, or do they bring their own lunches?
They bring their own lunches. And then we're going to pretty much stay just in their pool area, or in the field, and we have use of one of their rooms for.
They are small children compared to like the large number of kids on that campus in the summer.
Yeah, at the times I've been there, I honestly haven't seen much bodies around.
So Dana, do you have the master sheet here?
Yeah, so the one thing to note is the Lynx Day Camp at 400 kids last year, they're not really operating this year.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, Lynx Day Camp last year was during this span as well. They had 400 kids, so they're actually down to basically 400 students during this time period. They did just help.
Oh, okay. So it's been a decrease, total number.
Yeah, there's no issues for the young students there.
And this is the first year, right? The first application?
Hopefully the first of very many. So it was very hard to find a pool that hasn't already been used, and that's not already booked for the next 25 years.
Anybody else have any?
Are you saying that those numbers were like 800 something instead of 600 something before?
Yeah, the Lynx Camp had about 400 kids.
Oh, even more. So they were like 1,000.
So we're significantly out the amount of students that are
Okay, thank you.
That's good. Okay, so this is for what, 3 years?
Yep.
Okay. Good. In that case, what we'll do is continue the hearing to look at the draft decision to what date? 4/24. We'll read the draft decision, vote on it, and that'll be the end of the process for us. You can come if you'd like, but you don't have to. We won't take testimony.
Is there going to be another meeting before you get? No, that's great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Have a good night.
Next, I think we're ready to talk about 1 Miriam Street, site plan approval under the flexible subdivision permit. Who's making the presentation? You're making the presentation?
Got a whole team.
Okay. If you could hold your presentation to say 15 minutes.
No problem.
Okay, then we'll have comments from the planning board in the audience, and that'll be in our consultants.
Okay. My name is Rick Goldstein. I'm here as the owner and applicant. As I believe the board is aware, this is part of a 3-lot flexible subdivision plan that was previously approved. We actually didn't do the previous subdivision plan, but we are here tonight for this particular lot. The footprint shown on the approved subdivision plan is about 30% larger than the footprint of the house that we're proposing. So we believe this will help minimize impacts pretty much across the board on the lot. And unless there's any specific questions for me, I'm happy to turn it over to our consultants and any particular order you'd like. We have.
Is that the actual footprint you're suggesting right there? Was that the original one?
That is the footprint that we are suggesting.
Okay.
And the original one
Which lot are you looking at?
This was the approved subdivision plan. This is the footprint on that plan. This is about 30% larger than the footprint you see on that plan. Roughly. I had to do some extrapolation. This one is sold, this one. So, anyway, go ahead. With me here tonight is Ari Rappi, civil engineer for the project, Michael Radner, landscape architect for the project, and Dan Quayle, architect for the project. So unless there's anything else for me, I'm happy to turn it over to them in any particular order. Would you like to start with site? Mr. Rappi. Those aren't.
So they approved the driveway under the original flexible subdivision plan. The approved driveway was 3,770 square feet. We are proposing a smaller driveway, 3,172 square feet. Also, when it comes down to the size of the house, the approved house is shown on the plan as 3,972 square feet, and the new house that we are proposing is 2,832 square feet. Footprint of the house. And it's shown on graphically on the left-hand side. On the left corner is the approved house size, and then on the right-hand side you're going to see the proposed footprint for the driveway and for the house.
The RGFA for this one is 5,990.
That includes the attic.
Including the attic, correct?
Including the attic.
So what we have done on this project is that we try to minimize the footprint of the building and of the driveway, but at the same time trying to have it as functional as possible. One of the recommendations that we have on the preliminary meeting was to include a future patio behind the house in the event that future owners would like to add more to the impervious surface. The location of the drainage field has not been changed from what was originally approved. We just modified the grading to fit the proposed house. It's minor grading. We stayed away from the limit of disturbance areas. There are 3 areas where we are proposing drainage fields. There is a drainage field on the left front corner of the house. That's going to take the roof runoff for front of the house. Then we have a drainage field on the rear right of the house to pick up the runoff from the back. And to pick up the runoff from the driveway, we have proposed Caltech chambers with catch basin at the street, trying charge on the lot. As far as the height of the building, the maximum allowed is 37 feet, and we have calculated the new house to be 36 and a half. Everything else was septic and questions?
The contouring of the right-hand property, the right-hand line, right here, that's, okay. And the no disturb areas haven't changed? Is what was approved? Okay.
When the house footprint shrank, the leaching field has not moved closer to the north. And right, would you consider moving closer so you'd be cutting down fewer trees?
Because of the topography, it's challenging trying to bring it closer. We have to go through the whole process with the Board of Health and also
I'm just saying the septic is closer to the house. It doesn't affect the existing house, but there's be more trees left. You can probably go to the. Yeah, I know, that's not the worst trees, that's our best level. Yeah, can we take a look at the landscape and see if there are any trees we could save?
So this is a good time for me on this. Good evening, Michael Radner with Radner Design from Framingham. So the first plan that we have here is a tree preservation plan, and you can see the, oh, that would be helpful. Put out the trees that I've noted in these dotted circles here are trees to be preserved. You can see that they're mostly in the LDA, and the LDA comes up to this point, takes a little right angle here, and goes back this way. We've designated additional trees outside of the LDA, and there's 10 trees between here and a couple over here. So we are preserving 10 trees outside of the LDA in this area. And this was a change from the originally submitted plans as a result of our site walk. The other changes just on this plan that I'll point out are the designated construction parking at this location. At this location, we've designated a stockpiling area at this location here. And we also indicated, I'm just tracing the line of an orange snow fence that would be used for additional tree protection in this, along this side as well. Next slide. The landscape approach here is basically along this edge right here in between the two houses. We want to strengthen that buffer, that screening between the two houses. So you can see some existing trees in this location and one here. We were adding additional evergreens here, and two additional, I think there's an oak and a maple, I don't know which one's which on this plan, but that was to provide additional screening between the houses. There are some evergreen trees already along this edge, so we're just going to strengthen that a little bit more. The other planting is within the LDA, this area here, and the idea is that there's underplanting and the existing tree canopy with some native vegetation. There's things like mountain laurel and rhododendron and dogwoods, and along here there's some conifers and some other sort of understory trees that would be located. And these are not exact locations. I think they're going to have to be sort of located in the field in between the trees and stuff. The other change that we made on this as a result of the sidewalk is we increased, I know you can't read that, but
We've increased the shrub sizes. I think we had 24, 30-inch shrubs, and then we're at 36 to 42. In these, one of them is 30 to 36. I'm not sure that we can get summer sweet in bigger size than that. So we've upped the sizes there. Next slide. So this is the lighting plan, and just zooming in on the, if you could drag it down a little bit so we can see the, yeah. So one post light out at the street, okay, and that's this fixture right here. Pardon? 6 feet. Path lights, landscape lights along the front walk. There's a light under the portico. There are some wall mounts along here, and then type fixtures. I'm sorry, this is the path light right here. This is a wall mount that would be on the back of the house. These are, I believe this one is along the garage. So everything is LED, everything is downlight, dark sky compliant. The lumen total is down here. I think we're just under 11,000 lumens, so within your regulations. It's under 11,000. Okay.
Can we go back to the trees?
Sure. That's the last one for me, so let's go back to the trees.
Right now, the leaching fields are valuable to the house.
Right.
And I guess, I don't know if I can skip that. Is there any trees along that side that could possibly be saved, protected, to be perpendicular to your setback, and as you move closer to the house? Are there any trees there that you could save that would help separate and hold your landscape?
Trees that are, if you were to, sure.
A little hard to read, yeah. So red oak, RO is red oak, so that's a 10-inch red oak there. This is a 6-inch white pine, so white, 12-inch white pine. Yeah, I think I want to argue that it's a comment on the location.
So as far as moving the village field, one of the issues is that basically the area that is listed. We're kind of far from the park, we have to be desperate to be able to.
So,
So
well,
moving,
so if you visit your square, or this way, you have two testers, you turn around, you have two testers.
the issue with that is that we try to, the housing was, the way you took the leaching field has to match with how things go. So if you try to twist it, I mean, we can certainly look at it. We wouldn't come.
I don't think it's a big deal, I think you can probably.
Or it can be a field change, that's.
I think we should, we're willing to look into it, pursue it. I don't think we'd be happy to continue. We'd be cool to continue on that, because we don't want to get it. So, yes, we're happy to do that. We could look at it, but there's no way to get the engineers to approve it. I don't want to you approve it and vote.
Right, and I understand that, and I'm trying to make that, Dave, one second.
So what about the uniform and destroy plantings there? Everything
You're asking me?
Yes.
Yes, I would say that's
I don't think.
Oh, existing. No, existing, we haven't surveyed that kind of vegetation, but the general area. No, we haven't, so these are common. Trees. Right, in order to squeeze between two houses, because if everything's tall, well, so the conifers, I mean, I'm not trying to market it. The conifers are like this, and then you trees like this, so like, I feel like it's building. We didn't like for they're white fir and white spruce, and they're 10 to 12 feet. can certainly add a condition, but we can add some large shrubs along with it. That's cool. Yeah. Sure.
What's going on here, forest and trails, where are the large stuff?
We talked about this a bit, I think it's deceiving about this plan is that he's showing them this small. These are these sharp big bush showing the plan, so he's got a decent mix of understory and yeah, so there's viburnums, there's these birds shorter than tissue. I think he was trying to show the scale over years. Maybe it is 2 years old. So, and one thing we had talked about in some of the meetings was that the solid road really short trees. And so I was trying to get them to discuss some of the by doing that, and then shape things around. So this was like, wow, there's a class to that, because it's going to be in their trees. And I do think it's decided.
We've done that on other properties.
So, any other questions? In that case,
I know you guys are on well between those two existing.
I believe we showed a well location. Or did we show a well? Yes. We showed a well location, which is a generator location. In either of those eight so these locations.
So it's one well in the front and two.
Next we have, you guys all set? Yeah, we'll look at the decision on the 24th. You'll have the sketch on the rotated septic field for us to take a look at.
That's all we do.
Okay. Thank you. 100 Meadowbrook, a 617 square foot addition to the existing house under RGFA site plan approval. Who's making the presentation on that one? Do you have that on slides?
Thank you. For the record, I'm Brian Nelson with Weston Engineering. We're here to present some site plans for 100 Meadowbrook Road. With me tonight are Charlie Wade, our landscape architect, and Eric Pezes from KBC Builders. This is an existing conditions board of the property. North is going straight up the page. We're located on the westerly side of Meadowbrook Road. Property contains just over 2 acres of land, about 89,000 square feet, located in a residence A zone. The existing house is shown in brown, basically about right in here, about 92 feet or so off the sideline of Meadowbrook Road. And circular driveway, one entrance northerly side, another entrance southerly side of the property. This comes up, the existing garage is located right here. The existing RGFA for the property for the house is about 7,169 square feet. 7970. So just under 8,000 square feet. You can see the front of the property, there are a couple different shades of green. There's some lawn area just outside the driveway. Landscaped areas basically along the front and coming around the southerly, southwesterly sides. And we've got another wooded area up along the northerly boundary as well. Some lawn area interspersed with some landscaped area and plantings kind of in the central portion of the backyard. The existing septic system is located up on this knoll, basically the far west side of the property. We've got an existing terrace out back, a small sports court located behind the garage. And there is 1 or 2 dry wells in the front of the property. In this location here, basically it looks like they're catching the front half of the roof surface. So there is a small stormwater management system in place.
And there are no wetlands on the site within 100 feet of the site.
When was this built?
This was built in 2005. If there are no questions on existing, I'll go to the proposed. This is a proposed board, basically oriented the same way, north going straight up the page. And what we're proposing is a small addition located on the north side of the house right there. It's got a footprint of about 130 square feet with a bulkhead. Then there's another addition, which is a sunroom located on the back of the house. That's got a footprint of about 480 square feet. Not proposing any modifications to the driveway or the front of the house, but looking to basically reconstruct the terrace around the new addition in the back. Basically enlarge the sports court in the back of the garage a little bit, the shed will remain. And looking at doing some grading in the back just to try and flatten out the backyard and take some of the curse off the slope. With the addition of a retaining wall here, and try to flatten out some of those contours, to try and flatten out that lawn area and give a little bit of a level playing area. And for stormwater management, we've got an infiltration system located, we proposed behind the house in this location. And that will catch runoff from the sports court, the terrace, and basically the rear part of the house. So everything that's going to pitch runoff toward the back of the property. And with the stormwater management system in place, we've got reductions in the rates and volumes of runoff in the room about 5 to 10% for all storms. And with that, as a pass through the proposed, I think it's a good time now to turn it over to Charlie to talk about landscape.
Before we talk about landscape, did we look at this house before? Why the hell not? It's 7,000 square feet.
I believe this is one of those that when it came through, they didn't count the attic. That's why I believe it didn't go through. It was calculated under a different RDFA, and that's not our different methodology.
Yeah.
It's not about that, that's not.
Okay. So there's nothing in here to talk about, no disturb zones or anything else?
Not in an existing plan that, yeah.
Okay.
That was on. No.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Page. I'm the landscape architect. And so we've got site sections that kind of walk through, and then we'll have a landscape plan that is focused on the landscaping in the backyard. So this section is cut through, right through, the line is kind of faint, but it's going right through this way. You can see we're coming kind of, this is that coming out of the woods. We've got that flat area where the septic field is right up here. Comes down slope, cuts through that landscape bed, which is right here on the plan. Some existing trees to remain in there. Down to the flat area where the house is. Cuts through the driveway, and you can see that the front of the house and the existing driveway are not quite a bit of slope up Meadowbrook. That's all pretty heavily vegetated with understory and existing trees to remain. The section that cuts perpendicular to that through the site, you can see sort of comes off the property line through existing woodlands. This is cutting through the sort of grade change area right through here, flat areas of the house, and then dropping off. You can see there's this represents an existing retaining wall that's right there on the plan, and then a wooded area between that wall and the property line and the neighboring property to the north. Any questions on this? Pretty straightforward. Sure. Yeah, of course. What can we? So it's probably better to talk about that on the landscape plan, if you don't mind. So let's. Yep, sure. Both good questions.
Your landscape is not to use your
Are you guys better with the board or better with the?
You want to use that? Use that.
So there's a PDF on there called it's Land Commission Packet.
This one?
Of course. The board's over there.
There you go.
That way you don't have to crane your neck. So this is the same plan that you looked at with Brian. It's just isolated only to the backyard. So on this plan, north is to the right of the sheet, and we're just focusing on the back of the house. So this is the proposed kitchen addition. If we start sort of on the southerly corner of the house, we come around from the garage. The existing sport court is right in this area. We're proposing to enlarge that a little bit. Right now there's sort of an awkward corner taken out of it, and the existing stone retaining wall that is in the backyard comes along the side and goes right through here. And then here, the existing wall ends about here, and this is a very steep plant bed right now. So to answer your question, the retaining wall, the proposed retaining wall starts right in this corner off the existing shed, goes up around the corner of the sport court, and then along here, just enough to allow us to kind of carry the grades of the existing lawn area over. The maximum height is 5 feet right in this area, and it follows the grade above. So the height is probably about 3 feet here, max is about 5, and then decreases to 0 at the end. It is only visible to this property. It will be flush with grade on the high side, so the neighbor on this side won't be able to see it. It's in the woods, so it's only really visible from this backyard. So we also, to answer the visibility question, not only is there planting above, but there's also proposed planting in front of it below. In order to add this wall in, this is the edge of the existing woods kind of follows right through here. So we do have some removals of existing trees that would need to be done to get the wall in. Some of those are because they're in areas of regrading, and others are because they're just very close to the wall. And the excavation of changing the grade would impact the root mass of those trees, and so I think it's just more prudent to take them out now.
Can you highlight what some of those trees are?
Yep, of course. So I have also pictures of the existing trees. They're on that thumb drive that I also have here. So those are numbered, and I'll go through kind of one. There are 10 total. I can go through them now. So if you can start with 1, and tree 1, and then So I can point. So tree 1 is this symbol right here. It's an existing oak, and you can see it's got some pretty significant crown damage. It's got a line in it with included bark. It's actually kind of a hazard in the area where it is, and also that included bark in the garage. Tree 2, and so there's a few images of tree 1. This is now tree 2. Tree 2 and 3 are 2 existing pear trees, small 4-inch cowering pears off the back. And so those were planted at house construction. One of the pears was pretty sad, a little bigger, and in general they're kind of weak-wooded as they get older, they drop branches. Then we have numbers 3, 4, and no, I'm sorry. Thank you. So those are 3 matching red maples. They're all 8-inch. Again, I believe they were planted when the house was built. So 2 of them are up above that retaining wall, and so those are the 2 that would need to be removed kind of as a result of the regrading. One of them is down in this area where we're proposing that small expansion itself, we're finding a lot of good, we're finding the birch borer is kind of getting into those white birches. This is a cherry tree, again, right along that wall line. And it's kind of a, I think there's one more, if you go to the next photo, you can see it's a real kind of mishmash of structure. But so that is one for removal, then we've got two more. The next one is another birch. And I think there's a photo, the next photo will show you the ground of that. And then the last one is a pine tree in the woods there, which is, I believe, a 12-inch pine. We did have a previous version of the plan that had the wall a little further back, and when we reviewed it with EMI, there's some larger trees back here that were impacted, including this 20-inch pine. And so in the discussion with the pre-meeting, we pushed the wall away from the trees a little bit more to lessen the impact on the trees. One other comment about that is that there is, in some of those photos, you can maybe see that there is a bunch of existing understory vegetation along that line. There's some calmia here, rhododendron, things like that. And so that would be looking to dig and save on site and then reuse either above the wall or below. It will be on a crushed stone footing. I think we're probably going to be around 18 to 24 inches. Does that seem reasonable to you, Glenn? No, the evaluation is just based on the canopy extents and location of the wall. I don't know. I don't think, I mean, impacted, yes. Impacted severely, probably not. I feel like, the ones that we've based on the survey locations, the ones that we've marked for removal are the ones that I feel would be severely compromised. There would potentially be some impact to those, but I don't think it's something that they couldn't absorb. Well, it varies, but I believe that the very end of it, where it's over that setback line, the closest. It goes down to 0 at the top there. Correct. Yep. Can you flip that over? Show me the back of that. So it's going to look like that one, the top in the middle. So that's actually a photo of the existing wall right now that's on site. Yep, that's what's existing, and so we're sort of, we're sort of married to that. We're just going to attach to the end of it and continue on in that style. Yes, on the woodland side, correct. Well, as they're fitted together, they're fairly tight, and then as they build it, they backfill behind with crushed stone and fabric. So yeah, exactly.
Can you talk about the new planning that you're putting in the new trees?
Sure.
Yep.
You want to go back to there? Yeah. So there are, let's look at that, flip that one over. Yep. So we've got, to replant, we have 3 deciduous. 1, 2, 3. And so these are called out here. This would be a river birch, which is the middle photo on the bottom there. This would be a sugar maple, which is on the left side of the bottom row. And this would be a snowbell tree, Styrax japonica. That would be, so that's on the right side. In addition to those 3 deciduous, we also have 7 evergreen over here. And so those are kind of to beef up the existing woodland on this northern property line and help with screening between this area and the neighboring property.
And what are the evergreens?
They are all called out here. So we've got a mixture of Norway spruce, 3 Norway spruce, 3 Serbian spruce, and 1 conifer fir. They are all called out at 10 to 12, and the deciduous are all 3 to 3.5 inch gap. Yes, but it's got room back there too. So existing lighting, we've got kind of a mishmash around, but we've got a pendant at the front door. We've got 4 existing post lights near the front door, several uplights in the landscape around the property, flush mount on the porch, as well as recessed lighting in the porch. There are several motion lights around the house, as well as sconces over the garage doors and at the pedestrian doors. So existing lumen count right now is 46, almost 47,000 lumens existing on the exterior. Correct. Yep. So that's all the existing lighting. So now we can flip back to that plan. So we are proposing to get rid of and replace all of the non-compliant exterior lighting. So none of that stuff that I just showed you photos of was dark sky compliant, and none of it, well, with one exception, one of the motion lights is LED, but none of the other light was LED. So what we're proposing to do is to remove all of the uplights. We're removing, so those are kind of these squares around the property. The 4 pier lights that were by the front door, we're proposing to remove those. And in place, we would put in, we'll get to exact pictures in a moment, but I'll just kind of give you an overview. We'd put path lights along the front walkway in place of those pier lights, dark sky path lights. We would replace the pendant at the front door with an LED Title 24 compliant light. We would have the existing cans would remain in the porch, but we would replace that existing flush mount with a dark sky compliant flush mount. All the sconces at the doors would be replaced with dark sky compliant. We would have additional, these are path lights going around the perimeter of the house. Again, low level LED path lights. The addition is a screen porch, so technically it counts in the exterior lighting. So we have additional recessed lighting in there. We have 8 recessed cans, and then we have step lights in the stairs there. And then we have a few more path lights kind of around that perimeter. We've got 2 directional lights to light the new, a little bit of light on the proposed terrace and outdoor kitchen. And then the last landscape lighting would be over here by a proposed fire pit area that would be tree mounted and hanging down. So we can, you guys want to look at the individual fixture cut sheets and talk about those? So there's a well, I'll show you. It's going to be, oh, there, this one yeah, you got it. So the one, let's start in reverse order. So if you look that all the way up, that's the fixture and that's the install hanging down. So it's basically a copper cylinder, so fully shielded, shines only down and suspended by a wire. It's just thin 12-gauge lighting wire that is run up the trunk of the tree. And it doesn't go around. Nope. Nope. Just simple. So it's staples that are loose enough that the wire can actually slide through. Correct. Yeah. No, I definitely would never do that if you're going to hurt the tree, because then you not only you lose the tree, but you lose the place where you had the light. So it's a lose-lose situation. It depends on the branching, but they're going to be probably 8 to 10 feet high. There are 3 in that. And so they're like a 1.5-inch diameter cylinder. Exactly. Yeah.
But obviously they have a very, very small. I don't know.
Correct. So it's a very, I think they're a 1-watt or 2-watt LED, so it's a very subtle light in a warm white, and it really casts a soft sort of cool that the diameter is proportional to the height. But really, what the effect that I try to achieve with lights like this is moonlight. So I'll often try to get them not on the lowest branch, but one kind of on the second tier, so that it's actually shining through the leaves below. So on the ground plane, you get a little bit of you'd only see the light on the ground because it's a recessed lamp in that deep cylinder. Even if you're on, you have to be almost directly beneath it to see the lamp. So there's no glare, and really all you see is the light on the ground. Correct, exactly. And there, yes, exactly right. So there's those little perforations, and then they just shine through. Looks like that. That is replacing. No, there's one flush mount outside the side door that looks like this. So that's the proposed fixture there. And then if you can go back, it's replacing that. I think it's like 14 squares. 9 inch by 9 inches. Yeah.
The bottom line is
on that fixture, total is 17,981. So we're 65% reduction.
Any other questions? No, sir. 17,000.
and there is a generator in that,
There is a generator.
and it is 40 decibels.
Existing generator?
Yes.
There is an existing generator that we can locate in the setback. So we located to the northwest, so it's 6 feet from the setback.
The AC compressors.
So AC is over by the garage, right? The enclosure. And you know that, but I don't know. Get it.
The air conditioning units are located.
Yeah, so could you go to 1 second?
Got it.
Yeah, one.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So the air conditioners are located here right now, just on the side of the garage. And the generator is currently right there. The setback line is coming down this way. So it's going to kind of slide over into this area, I believe.
You guys are okay with the sound transmission requirements?
We'll have to confirm that. We had cut sheets for the generator.
Right against the wall,
That's the one on the existing, yeah. Probably, yeah. But I mean, so I think the answer to your question is yes, whether it requires an enclosure, I mean, whatever the requirement is, yes, it will have to meet those.
40 feet from
The file drawing will show the location.
Yes.
irrigation system.
There is an existing irrigation system. I do not believe that there is an existing well. We have looked and not found. So we will be putting in a well.
Congratulations to the consultants.
Yes.
Town planner.
Any other comments?
It's been wonderful.
You guys, stormwater. Stormwater's okay? Okay. Landscaping's okay? Good. Good. What date are we looking
We'll do this on the 24th as well.
Right, okay. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
We'll look at the draft decision on the 24th of April.
All right, it's 10:03. Good to that.
Yes. Yes, I will get her.
Decisions, you mind pass them out?
Yep. So first one to look at is the earth movement, which I just realized still is the same plan on it, so it's here. Inside the river school. No, you only get 20,000 units. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. it's 30 feet they're landscaping 30 feet from the entry along Winter Street. To 30 feet along, so yeah, let's say 30 feet along.
30 feet along.
Yeah.
That's called out somewhere else, right? That's
Yeah.
actually called out on a special condition.
It's a condition, yeah.
Right, but I think also it says here, and the review side of the applicant's original, I think I want to say from 30 feet high to 20 feet high.
Where are we looking at now,
So
sir?
looking at page 505.
Okay.
Improvements have been reduced in size from the original
Oh, okay, from 30 feet to 20 feet?
30 feet, and also somewhere about,
The length?
the length.
Okay.
And right now it doesn't show it at the center of the field, somewhere where you can get a length or.
Yeah.
The actual. That's anything else.
Just the term physical improvements, unless you know what they're doing.
Yeah, so the 30
doesn't make any sense.
is the net, right?
That's it. Usually the height of the net and wrong.
Okay, so we'll spell these out. All nettings have been reduced in length and height.
We're not extolling the fact that the improvements have been reduced. The sizes have been reduced, so that the impacts are less.
There's a little tiny typo on page 10. Appendix 3, number 5, in addition to the word 3.
Yep.
It's missing, possibly it's missing the paragraph that we just talked about. That's the one about the improvements of the.
If you read that.
Which, besides from the applicant's original proposal.
Not that we're nitpicking. We were going too fast, right?
Say,
Yes. Yes.
I move that we approve.
You guys want to accept something in full?
Well,
Are we doing the references?
Yeah.
Okay, 12:15. It talks about existing vegetation including bittersweet. Can we say something about that in Russo? They were saying that it costs money to take it down to Russo, and that's one more path.
okay, so bittersweet will be removed to the roots of
Right,
well,
Russo.
okay.
Okay, and the other thing, it says a row of street, it's a row of street trees. You talk about the fact that it couldn't be normal street canopy trees with the wires, or we were trying to set mid-height range, I thought, can't give us something like service berries or crab apples or whatever. But I think you should probably do something about, not to exceed,
Okay.
or, whatever indicates an example. And then the scoreboard. If you can also say will not be lit or illuminated.
What do you mean by that? The scoreboard itself is illuminated, so you mean like no?
I didn't think there was supposed to be any lighting on the scoreboard when we asked.
No, they said that the.
It's LED, yeah.
Yeah, it's the scores will be lighted.
Okay, but we're not lighting, there's no spotlight on the scoreboard.
Yeah, there's no spotlight. Okay.
With internal lighting, with internal LED lighting.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the certificate of action for earth movement for the athletic field at the river school with the changes made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Next.
Okay. We'll find similar things in this one.
And since this is a little different from the prior one, I just moved the word along in that same paragraph after landscape to after 30 feet.
Okay.
Even, page 12, actually, it's the same comment as before. So.
Okay.
I move the certificate of action for limited site plan approval for the new athletic fields at the River School with the changes noted.
All in favor? No opposed? Moving on to the Stone Ridge Lane. This is, what's the
This is the flex, yeah, flexible subdivision.
This is one parcel.
Yes. Yes.
Page 5.
Page 5.
Minimize site disturbance. Storm drain lines have been sited through the wooded area to avoid treatment.
Okay, yeah, so specifically what that is, for this lot, they're putting the infiltration system way on the downslope where the existing house that's gonna be demoed is. And they were gonna have to run the storm drainage lines are gonna go from the higher area of the lot down to that infiltration system. In the flex sub, we have allowed a certain amount of space within which they could remove trees to accommodate that line. They cited it so that they didn't have to remove any.
All right, it's sort of
That's contradictory?
Yeah.
Okay.
It goes through the wooded area.
Yeah.
To avoid treatment generally.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
I want to think something like carefully cited.
Yeah.
Specific If you go back to page 5.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Page 5, under A, site sensitivity. It says, and locates new house and yard area near the new subdivision road. Is that in the existing subdivision plan that shows it, or?
Both show the site plan and the subdivision plan.
Then can we say as shown in the, just near the city wants to be, say as shown in the original subdivision plan? Hasn't done any worse, hasn't done any better.
Okay.
The next one is B, wooden areas next to the proposed house to be demoed. Can we preserve a greater degree than required? I don't understand that.
Okay. It's well, it's a lead-in kind of to E, where the
Whenever I hear wooden areas are going to be demolished,
yeah.
I don't understand why we would allow that.
Actually, what he's saying is that
The house will be
the
demoed.
flexible subdivision plan shows a number of trees to be removed, and they will actually remain.
Okay, so we need, can you rephrase that?
Yeah.
Says that? Like, I get the English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's kind of placement as a modifier.
Thank you. I'm glad you paid attention during that class. The other one is, where it goes existing ledge. I think if he says something like existing ledge will remain as landscape features, no
Okay.
blasting is anticipated. And the last one about stone trees, the two farmers' walls will be used on site to remake as walls. Are we making the walls, or are we just going around?
No, I think they'll be making walls with
Okay, then you say be reused on site for new walls. Reused on wall.
and I think they're going down into the secret garden.
The secret, yeah, exactly. Say reused. Yep. And then, one more.
Yep.
If you go to D, preserve scenic views, and the area landscape to enhance, I would say to shield, or to enhance, depends on who, is it better for the house to see Winter Street, or is it trying to shield Winter Street, or, I'm not sure.
Well, there's the existing house that's there now is right close to Winter Street, so you see it. That house is going to go on. That's all going to become landscaping. So
The new landscaping will provide more of a buffer zone between Winter Street and the house?
yeah, I would say even more of a buffer zone. It will take out. It will kind of renaturalize the area.
Okay, maybe that's the right way to say it.
Okay.
Naturalize the area, I like that. That's what we're doing. Okay, that's ready. All good. Go ahead, Leslie. I move that we approve the certificate of action site plan approval flexible subdivision for Freestone Ridge Lane,
Page 47.
Noise, says operations are primarily indoors and can be conditioned to prohibit sound amplification. Can we just say an outdoor?
And it will be conditioned?
Yeah, just say an outdoor sound amplification levy.
Okay. The conditions, conditions of approval, appendix D. It's page 6. Keep going.
So can we have
I'll put it D, okay.
Can we have conditions of approval that are listed in the matrix? There's 1, 2, and 9 on this. Second.
Moving on to minutes. Where do we stand on minutes? Okay. Did you do yours?
I did Gold Star.
Which one was yours?
Mine was December 19th, Gold Star. And there were a couple of little changes, and I sent them to you.
And then we approve all minutes that are on the table right now.
That's 1219.
It's 1219.
Yeah.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Town planner report.
Really short.
Yeah, we're done. That was a
All right, town planner report, just the next thing's coming up. This coming Tuesday, April 16th, Colchester site visit. That one I think right now is actually, if you look on GIS, it's listed as 0 Coleman. It's the corner of Colchester and Coleman. And then after that is a site visit for 441 Glen. He's just wanting to move the driveway further down the road, so it's no longer a shared driveway with his neighbor. But he has to take out a tree to do that. A tree will do the scenic road, so that's what we're hearing. But I'm doing that one after because we've already seen that site. So to accommodate it, so that's not a big pressure one to visit. Yes, you were going to go to that one, I believe.
Karen's going to be our advisor.
What's up?
Karen's going to be our advisor.
No, on 80 Highland, the next one. Yes, 80 Highland. On 80 Highland, Kim is contacted about that one, so Karen Sebastian will be doing, she'll be our landscape advisor for that. That's April 23rd. So, it took some work to get them compliant with the sound compliance, but they're doing it now, so it's a pretty standard one.
So do you know the measure that before the meeting made?
I have not, I've measured it once on one installation. Other than that, if they provide me the spec of the generator and the spec of the sound of the installation that cuts it down to the necessary amount, then I take that as. And then, other than that, let's see, well, we heard about our ongoing projects and permits here. If there's any other committee updates to go over? Not offhand? Okay. Traffic planning, Tony and I presented today at the Transportation Innovation Conference. Tony did a great job. So, pretty well. So we're pretty happy with them. We made some good connections. What's up? It's not video. Yes.